Well, hello, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, just welcome. Today's video is all about all of the meals we've been eating in a month for the winter time. Nice and cozy vibes over here. We make a lot of from scratch homemade food as much as possible. We are not perfect. We definitely still do eat out, but we try our best to cook at home. So I'm going to share all the meals, mainly dinners, as well as a lot of desserts as well, a lot of baking things we've been making too. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will leave as many recipes down below as possible. This was a really good video request that one of you guys put in, and I think it was a great one. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. So I started out with sourdough pancakes. We make these really often. We just use a box mix from Trader Joe's. This is the best pancake mix that I've ever tried, and I just put sourdough discard in it. If you don't know what sourdough starter is, it is how you make the bread. It's a natural leaven to make sourdough bread. So from the discard, which means what you're not using, I just put that in the pancake mix, and it makes the fluffiest, best pancakes you will ever taste. Absolutely love sourdough pancakes, and my kids do too. Also, if you're new here, I have two little kids, 3 and 4, and they can be picky eaters, and they eat the majority of this stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna share all the rest of the meals that we've been making. I try to do my best documenting for like a whole month, maybe even a little bit over, of what we've been eating. It is winter time right now, and we are doing a lot of one pot meals. And I also like to cook in batches, like stretch meals, so things that are gonna last me more than just one or two, not like just one night. I want it to last 1 or 2 nights, which makes my life so much easier since I'm cooking from scratch, and that can take hours. I want it to be worth my time and effort and just worth my while. I'm starting out by making shepherd's pie. This has been a family favorite for so long. So I just cut, peel, and boiled potatoes to make mashed potatoes, because that's what you put on top. And then I have my grass-fed beef. I put that in the skillet in the always pan, cutting up some onions and throwing in a whole bunch of other ingredients. I will do my best to leave recipes down below, but a lot of the time I just kind of make them up or throw what I think would be good in it, or kind of throw a few recipes together and just see what works best. I do a lot of recipe testing, but this one is a family favorite. Going back to my grandparents used to make this, and they are from Sweden, and honestly just so good, so good. You cannot go wrong with shepherd's pie. It's a pretty good healthy meal. And I make the mashed potatoes from scratch too. I'm just mashing them up, putting salt, pepper, heavy cream. You can use milk, butter, and Parmesan cheese. So good. If you've never had Parmesan cheese mashed potatoes, you should try it because it's good. Then I just put my meat and all of the mixture that we put together, put it in my cast iron. These are from Amazon, by the way. Making a little mashed potato design because that's the way my grandparents used to do it. Getting a little taste of those mashed potatoes, putting it in the oven, dressing it with some Italian seasoning and parsley, and there you go. It is so easy. And then a little bit of Parmesan on top, because why not? But this is definitely a family favorite since I was a little kid, and now my family loves it too. So that's really exciting, and it's so good. It's so filling. Everything you basically need in a dinner. So highly recommend. Now, after this night, we quickly went right into Thanksgiving. So here's our Thanksgiving dinner. We made majority of it from scratch, which was really nice, really fun. We had such a good Thanksgiving dinner. It was fabulous and lasted us almost about a week before we ran out of leftovers. We had a turkey, we had a ham, we had all of the things that we wanted for Thanksgiving, and it was really good. So once Thanksgiving was over, we got back to cooking, got back in the kitchen. You know, you get tired of those leftovers after a while. After like day 4, I'm like, okay, let me get back in the kitchen. And here I'm making tortilla soup, which is a newer recipe that we tried this year, and it is so good. I took a few recipes from Pinterest, kind of put them together, and honestly, just so good. Very simple. It's basically just throw everything in a pot. So I shredded some chicken, put some taco seasoning in, added some corn, beans, diced tomatoes, onions, and cream cheese as well as some jalapeno for a little bit of kick, because who doesn't like a little bit of spice? Well, maybe not everybody, but lately I've been loving some spicy food, so that sounds really, really good right now that I just want to eat it. I think I'm actually going to make it tomorrow. And then I put some chicken stock in there, or chicken broth, paprika, more taco seasoning. And yeah, so this is really good. And then you just mix it all up. And then I put tomato paste, and as well as minced garlic paste as well. Just makes it a little bit easier because I don't always want to chop and peel fresh garlic. And yeah, so good. This is just a really, really good, easy meal to throw together. It does take a little bit of prep time, chopping everything up, rinsing all of the beans and the corn and the diced tomatoes up. But once you've got all the prep done, it's very, very easy. And once all that's done, I let it simmer on the stove for probably about 2 hours, just to, get everything all good and incorporated in all the flavors. And then I just crunched up some tortilla chips and put it right on top, and there you go. It is so, tortilla soup is definitely a favorite this year, and I will be making it every year during the winter season. And now I'm making peach cobbler because my husband requested that. So we had peach cobbler this night, which was really good. I just took some frozen peaches, threw them in my always pan, let them simmer with some brown sugar, and let that reduce, meaning letting all the liquids kind of drain out, all the juices. That way it can be a nice thicker liquid is what you want, more like a syrup. So I have cornstarch, cinnamon, and salt all in one little bowl, mixed it together, threw it in. This is going to be our thickening agent for our peaches, so they're not super runny, so they're more like a syrup consistency and not so juicy. Even though I love a juicy peach, not in this recipe. I'm adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and then I'm adding about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, mixing that together, letting it cool just a little bit, and then I'm going to put it in another pan, and then we're gonna get started on the biscuit part. I decided to do little biscuits on top. They have a lot of different peach cobbler recipes, but I decided to do one with just regular biscuits. You could do drop biscuits, which means I don't think you really roll out the dough and cut them out, but I wanted it to look a little bit prettier, just for whatever reason. So I just made some biscuit dough. I'll try to leave my biscuit dough down below because we use this very often. Same recipe for every time we make biscuits. Sometimes we add cheddar and chives and just different additives, but it's always the same base. So I'll leave that down below. It's a very simple recipe. I'm just taking my cutters from Target. This came with 3. I'm using like the medium circle, and I'm just cutting out little circles, just very simple. Once I cut out my circles, I'm just placing it right on top of the peach cobbler. And then that's really it. I'm gonna brush it with a little bit of milk on top of the biscuits to encourage some good browning. Golden brown is what we want. And then add a little bit of brown sugar on top, throw this bad boy in the oven, and there you go. You have a really good peach cobbler. My husband absolutely loves this recipe, so I don't think you can go wrong with it. It is very, very good. So this was gone in probably like less than 2 days. So if that doesn't tell you that it's good, I don't know what else would, but it was very delicious, and we've made it now a few times. So yeah, very good one. So sickness hit pretty hard in our home, like shortly after Thanksgiving. So We had a lot of tea, so I'm just sharing that we drank chamomile tea, which has been so good. I absolutely love tea, and I don't know why I don't drink it more, but usually we're big coffee drinkers. But when we were sick, we were loving all the chamomile tea with honey in it. It was just so simple, so easy. And now we're on to making some more sourdough stuff. So here's my very active starter. I am starting out with some sourdough pizza dough that I made the night before. Usually you have to let sourdough sit overnight, so I made this the night before. I am cutting it off, sectioning it, shaping it, getting ready for the rise of this dough. I'm gonna shape it, let it sit for about maybe 2.5 hours and let it do its thing, get twice the size, then roll it out, put the toppings on, and there you go. Sourdough pizza, so simple. My kids love this. They ask for it all the time. So can't go wrong with sourdough pizza, or really any kind of pizza. Okay, so now I am making some scones, some gingerbread scones, because it is winter season. I will leave this recipe down below as well. This is so good if you like gingerbread. We are huge fans of gingerbread in this house. Well, at least I am. My husband doesn't really care for it at all, but I love it and the kids love it. So I'm a huge fan. So I'm adding my butter cubes into the scone mixture because you want to make sure that you have bigger cubes of butter so you have a nice flaky dough. And then I'm just going to combine everything together. Very, very simple. It is messy, but so fun at the same time. Baking is like my therapy. I am not mad at all. I put it in the freezer for a little bit right after I flattened it out. I made it into a nice little circle shape, and then I put it in the freezer. And then once I take it out the freezer, I am going to cut it in little triangle pieces. And then I am going to brush it with milk and then put it in the oven. Very simple. And then we're gonna do a nice little simple icing. I did a ginger icing, and all I did was just do a regular vanilla icing that I would do for a lot of different things that I bake, and added a little bit of ground ginger, and that was so good. Not only was the color really pretty, like a beautiful beige, but it was just so good on top of the gingerbread. I didn't even get this recipe from Pinterest. I just used my normal scone recipe and put molasses and all of the spices in that I normally would use for gingerbread. So I made this one up, but I'm pretty sure you could find a recipe for this. I'll do my best to link it down below, but I just glazed these little scones up and they were so good with coffee and just by themselves. So, so good. So I will be making these every year, every season during the holiday season. They were delightful and so, so good. Okay, and back to another one pot meal. These are my favorites, and you guys will see a pattern here. I love to make soups and stews and all of that kind of thing because they last a long time and they're pretty easy just to throw in a pot. That's kind of been my method this winter season, and it's been working really well, dare I say. So I am getting together some meatballs. I am throwing some homemade breadcrumbs that I took from biscuits that we had. They were cheddar chive biscuits, and I just shredded them and made my own breadcrumbs and then saved them for whenever I needed them and put them in the fridge. And then now I'm just making meatballs, which I added parsley, onions, some garlic powder, Parmesan cheese, grass-fed beef, as well as pork sausage meat, I believe, as well. And then I just rolled everything together. Salt, pepper, you know, just the basics to make meatballs. And these were really, really good. I'm gonna sear the meatballs, and then I'm going to make the soup base. If you don't know what wedding soup is, it's a really, really good Italian soup. And my mom was the one who turned me on to this when I was a little kid, and it is just so good. Very good filling soup. You wanna make sure you make a lot of meatballs though, and I like to sear mine before throwing them in the soup. You don't have to do that, but I think it's really nice to do that because they have a nice like brown, they have nice browning on them. And then I just put onions, parsley, and I'm just searing that in the meatball grease that we use with olive oil. And then I'm putting in garlic, carrots, celery, and just mixing all that together, just giving it a good saute, throwing some chicken broth in there, and just making a really good soup base. Now, once I let everything simmer, I also put some kale in too, and then I'm gonna put these little star noodles in, and then I'm gonna throw the meatballs in. You just wanna find like the smallest noodles possible for this soup. You don't want them to be too big. So I found these cute little star noodles that we used instead of the little circle ones. I just couldn't find those, so that is totally fine, but it is so yummy. I love this soup. Make sure you make a lot of meatballs because you are gonna want a meatball in almost every bite. So really, really good. And did I mention I put kale in it too? And then just let it simmer on the stove, and that's really it. Such a good, easy, simple meal. That's great for the cold weather. And then I just top it off with a little bit of Parmesan, and that's it. I like to get the pretty fresh Parmesan that's in like the little triangle pieces, not like the shredded, already like fake stuff basically, like the Kraft. I don't get that. I get the real one that you have to grate, and that is so good. And then after I made wedding soup, I rolled my cinnamon rolls, my sourdough cinnamon rolls. I have a whole video on this if you want to see how I make them in depth. But I'm just icing those, and then we're gonna have those for dessert because we do so much baking around here, at least a few times a week. And yeah, when I make these cinnamon rolls, it makes a lot, so I usually give a whole pan to a friend or a neighbor or something because you can freeze them too, and eventually we'll eat them. But overall, it just makes a lot of cinnamon rolls. Like I just showed you a cast iron and then this Pyrex of them. There's a whole other Pyrex of them. So this recipe makes tons and tons of cinnamon rolls, but they are so delicious, so good. No, they're not super sour at all because I know it sounds weird, sourdough cinnamon rolls, but they're delicious. So if you want to check out how I make those in depth, I have a whole video. So next, a few nights later, because the wedding soup lasted us 2 or 3 nights, and now now my husband is actually making chicken fried rice. So we always rinse our rice, get all the starches and all the dirt, whatever, off. And then I used the Gordon Ramsay. I was the one who made the rice, but he's the one who like put everything together, made it the fried rice, which is really simple, honestly. It's a very easy dinner. I love his method of making rice. So he's just adding the chicken. He has little carrots and green onions, salt, pepper, the shredded chicken, onions, just very simple. And then he's gonna add some soy sauce, and really that's it. We didn't add any peas because my husband doesn't love peas, but we add peas in most of our dishes. I don't know why. He just said he didn't want them in there, so I would recommend putting them in there because I think it's really good, but he did it this night and that's totally fine. So he's adding the soy sauce, and it's just a very simple, easy dinner. Like, who doesn't like fried rice? So this lasted us a couple nights, and then we cooked again. So it just is really nice to have meals already done and have leftovers for lunch and dinner the next day. It just makes your life so much easier as a homemaker just to cook in batches, so you don't have to worry about cooking every single night. Like, I can't stress that enough. That is just my favorite. Okay, so a few nights later, we ended up making some more soup. I made chicken noodle soup. I'm adding the onions, celery, carrots. I already have my chicken in there. I shredded chicken, let it boil. Well, first I let it boil, and then I took it out, shredded it, threw it back in, and I added chicken broth, and that's really it. Salt, pepper. I do everything but the leftover seasoning when I have it, and that's really good. That is from Trader Joe's. Great seasoning. And now I'm just using my biscuit dough. We are doing some fun stocking shaped biscuits, just little mini biscuits. You don't have to do this. It could be normal circle shapes is what we normally do, but since it's the holiday season, we like to make it fun for the kids. I buttered my cast iron, the one from Amazon. It actually comes with 3, which is really nice. It comes with this size, which is the biggest, a medium, and then like a small one for eggs or whatever. So good, really well priced, and the pans come seasoned already. And then I added my noodles to the soup, let that simmer, added more salt, and we did all kinds of fun little shapes. We did Christmas trees and snowflakes and whatever. And then we made some gingerbread cookies with the kids, and that was really fun. We are always making gingerbread cookies around here during this season. And this is a very easy, really good recipe, so I'll leave that link down below. All right, so now it's eggnog time. I wanted to include some recipes in this video because I am just always in the kitchen. And this is the second day of decorating. We made eggnog early on in the day. I'm gonna just kind of tell you quickly what I do. I am just separating the yolks from the whites, putting it in a bowl. I'm doing 6 eggs, and we save the whites to eat like scrambled eggs or something. We didn't want to make anything go to waste, so we just put those in a mason jar and then put it in the fridge, and then later we ate it for breakfast on a different day. But yeah, just separating that. And if you put it in a bowl, you crack the egg gently in a bowl, it just makes it so much easier to separate the yolks from the whites without breaking anything. And now I'm just taking my always pan, great saucepan, and doing 3 cups of whole milk, 1 cup of sugar, adding the egg yolks to my stand mixer, and then I'm just gonna beat it until it's a little lighter in color and not so opaque yellow, just a little bit with my whisk. And then I'm going to add maybe like a tablespoon or more every time, and then beat it. So very slowly adding the sugar to beat air into the whites, so we get a very aerated, nice, fluffy mixture. So that's the goal, is just to add air with the sugar and the yolks to get something nice and thick. Ooh, she is thick. Look at that. I just love the consistency, and it also tastes amazing. And then I'm just slowly adding and whisking as I'm adding in the warm milk that we put on the stove. You want to make sure that you don't make it go to a boil. You just want it to be on a light simmer, and just get it nice and hot but not boiling, because that will be too hot and you will make scrambled eggs. You don't want to curdle the yolk, so you want to add it very slowly and whisk while you're adding it. Once you incorporate it and you bring up your yolks and sugar to temperature, then I just add it on into the pretty warm milk, and then I added some vanilla. I'm straining it with a fine sifter, getting any unwanted texture out. And then I just did a ice bath, and now I'm adding my spices. So it's just pretty simple, and I'm whisking it all together while it's in the ice bath. This can take maybe like 10 or 15 minutes to get it a little more chilled, because you want to stop the cooking process. So after I do that, I add some more spices, and I do ginger, ground ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and I believe that's all I added. Oh, and cloves. I also added cloves too. And then, yeah, that's just sitting on ice, and then I'm going to bottle it up. And then when I drink my eggnog, I like to have it over ice, but I let it sit in the fridge maybe for a few hours before even trying. But it's a pretty good thick eggnog. If you want it to be thicker, you want to let it sit on the stove on a very low heat, and the longer it cooks, the thicker it will get, so you can really adjust the spices to your liking and the thickness and customize it. And that's what's so nice about making it from scratch, and you don't have to worry about additives and preservatives and all that gross stuff in your eggnog. So it's really fun to make it from scratch. It could be a little bit of a harder thing to do at first, but you'll get it down. It might take a time or two to try, but there's lots of videos out there. Next, we made black eyed peas soup a few nights later, and this is really good. I just added collard greens, black eyed peas, salt, pepper, beef broth, and what else did I add? Onions, just really simple. And then I made cornbread. Oh, obviously I used the ham too that we had from Thanksgiving. I froze the bone with a whole bunch of meat still left on it, and just made black eyed pea soup, and that is really, really good. And this cornbread was so yummy with it. One of the best combos you can have for winter. I cannot wait to make this again. Very simple. And I will try to leave my cornbread recipe down below too. It's so soft and it's really, really good. Alright, so a few nights later we made tomato soup with grilled cheese sandwiches, and this is really yummy. I didn't film it, so I filmed this back in October, I believe. So here's footage of me making it, because I think I forgot to film it because I can't find the footage anywhere, but here you go. It's how I made it. I just did crushed tomatoes, water, and I try to use organic canned products when possible, always. And then I added chicken broth, stirred that together, lots of salt, pepper, all the seasonings. I think I added oregano, Italian seasoning, 2 tablespoons or so of sugar, as well as thyme, fresh thyme from the store, as well as basil, onions, all of that really good stuff. And then I just make a sourdough grilled cheese sandwich. I also did garlic in the tomato soup too, didn't want to forget that. Just very simple. And then I just let that simmer and come to a boil, and then bring it back down to a simmer. And that is really good alongside with quesadillas, as well as grilled cheese. You can have it with any kind of sandwich really, and it's really good. Especially good for dipping, so that's very, very good. Cannot go wrong with tomato soup. That is like an American classic, so definitely enjoyed that. I also added butter and heavy whipping cream, and that was really nice. Made the soup really creamy and smooth. And then I also added some thyme to our grilled cheese sandwiches using Monterey Jack cheese with butter. So good. This combination is like one of my favorite go-tos for food in the wintertime. It's just so delicious. And I also have a lot of fun dipping my grilled cheese or quesadilla in my tomato soup. I don't know, something about it is just nostalgic from when I was a kid. It's just so good. Okay, so on to making some pie dough. I am tripling my pie dough so I can make a whole bunch of chicken pot pies. You don't have to do this. I will just leave a regular, just one single chicken pot pie down below, or pie dough recipe. So I always make 3 pies when I do chicken pot pie, so it can last us 2 or 3, 4 days even. And yeah, so when it comes to pie dough, you want to make sure that you shred butter. You want to make sure the butter is frozen, very cold. And by doing this and also having big chunks of butter, you are going to create very flaky pie dough layers. That's what you want. So you want shredded butter as well as some chunkier, bigger pieces of butter that you don't want to break up too thin, because you want those big pieces of butter, which makes it nice and flaky and delicate and have all those really good buttery layers to your pie dough. That is very essential when it comes to pie dough. It's really the trick when it comes to making any kind of pastry. I also use ice cold water, so I put an ice cube in my ice cold water, let that sit, and that's the water that I will be adding to the mixture. We added salt, butter, flour, and sugar, and then ice cold water, and that's really it. So simple. And the sugar is not going to make the pie dough sweet, really. It's just going to encourage browning, so that's why you add sugar to the pie dough. So that's very easy to do. Pie dough seems intimidating for a lot of people, but honestly it's pretty simple once you get it down. So again, you want to make sure you are not breaking down these butter pieces too small. You want to have these nice bigger layers of butter. It just gives it more dimension, that nice flakiness that we're looking for when it comes to any pie dough or really any pastry. Same thing, pretty similar when it comes to like a Danish or even a croissant is kind of similar, but definitely different. But it's the same kind of concept, is keeping your butter cold is very important, as well as the size of your butter. Anywho, croissants are a whole different story. I will maybe share that someday. I have a reel on how I did it on Instagram if you want to follow me over there. But I'm just putting my pie dough in the fridge, letting it get really cold again, because you don't want to work with pie dough that is not cold. Like I said, temperature is really the key when it comes to working with pastries or a pie dough. So I'm just sectioning it off. I ended up making more pie dough after I filmed these clips for one more pie, so I could give that to a friend because I had leftover pie filling. But you can see here when I'm rolling it out how we have those bigger, chunkier pieces of butter. That's what you want. And I'm just gonna put it on my rolling pin and we are going to make the pie. Now I went a little fancy and overboard, but I was just having fun. I was prepping at night when the kids were going to bed for the next day. just to make my life easier, and I had some fun with it. I did some fun little cookie cutter shapes and just enjoy the B-roll of me putting these pies together. You do not have to do all of this at all. I'm cutting off the edges, and then I'm going to double up the pie dough, like folding it inwards to give like a nice little edge, just so you have like a thicker. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means because you're going to be covering it up with another layer of pie dough on top, so don't even really worry too much about that. But I like to tuck the ends in, and then I'm going to do some line work and cookie cutter work and whatever. But you don't have to do this. It does not have to be this fancy at all. I was just having fun because my kids were asleep, and why not? So yeah, chicken pot pie is really good, and I will leave all the ingredients down below on how I make that, but that is definitely a staple around here as well for the winter and fall time.
I'm walking around feeling free, thinking about what's happened to me from July up till now. Don't know where, don't know how. Lately I've come to realize that I can see it in your eyes, so it's true. I'm so glad you feel it too. Nothing to hide, but falling in love. To me it's perfectly clear, we're falling in love. It's true, this part of the year has something in store for us. We're falling in love. Summer ended, but we did not. We started something, this thing that we got grew stronger. Each day we're together all the way. Oh, we're falling in love. To me it's perfectly clear, we're falling in love. It's true, this part of the year has something in store for us. We're falling in love. Hey. Say. Walking around, you and me. Christmas time's got the best of me. Then it starts to snow in our hearts. We both know that we're falling in love. To me it's perfectly clear, we're falling in love. It's true, this part of the year has something in store for us.
And a few nights later, we ended up making some white chicken chili, which was really good. And we made it more into a soup, and it was so good. It was very simple and just so good. We topped it off with some cilantro and avocado. Next morning, we went out to eat at a local diner and just had your classic bacon and eggs and toast. It was so good with hash browns. Love that. And then I came home and made the kids some bagels. I did a few plain and everything but the bagel seasoning. This is them before they were baked. They did their hot water bath on the stove. I just boiled the bagels. I have a whole tutorial or recipe video on how to make sourdough bagels if you're interested in that. They are so good, and my kids eat these all the time and are always asking for them. And now it's just espresso time. We drink a lot of coffee around here basically every day, but since it's the holiday season, we have been having so much fun with our holiday coffee recipes. I have a whole video on that too. Right now I am making a hot cocoa latte, which is so delicious, and we have been loving that. We just do some hot cocoa powder, some steamed milk, espresso shot, a double shot, stir it up, do a little bit of frothed foam on top, hot cocoa powder, and some marshmallows. I don't do marshmallows very often. This is just more for like every now and then, but yeah, and then the next day we went out to have lunch and we tried the Wingstop chicken sandwich, or I did, and the kids just ate fries. I was a little disappointed how it didn't have anything on it, just the bread and the chicken. I got the mango habanero, which was really good, but it could have used some tomato or whatever, but we finished it and it was good. My mom got lemon pepper and said it was dry as heck. The kids had fun though eating out, because we just don't do this at all very often, but it's fun when you go out here and there. And then we just made a quick little grocery store trip to get some more milk, and I usually get lactose free because your girl is kind of lactose intolerant. And then I picked up some Kerrygold butter for more baking supplies because I planned on making some croissants. I didn't include that in this video because I still haven't made them, but I'm going to. I just have the butter because you want to use European butter. And then we have been picking our own oranges and lemons lately in our neighborhood, and I am so grateful for this because they are so good. Like when I say fresh, like they are so juicy, so fresh. It doesn't get any better than just picked off the tree. So we have been really enjoying picking our own lemons and our own oranges. I really dream one day to grow my own food and have my own little farm, but until then, this will do. I'm so grateful to even have them so close. And now I'm making some beef stew. This is such a really good meal, very easy. I just seared up some chuck roast, and then I'm adding some carrots, some celery. I had some tomato paste and onions and all of that good stuff. Adding some seasonings, and then we're gonna add some beef broth and potatoes, and really that's it. It's so simple. You can have it over rice, you can have it by itself or with some bread on the side. I think that's what we did. We had it with bread on the side and it was really good. But yeah, I think we're gonna actually make this for Christmas because my family just enjoyed it that much that they're requesting beef stew for Christmas dinner. So I think we're gonna keep it simple and do this again because we just enjoy this recipe so much, and it's very simple and very filling. So love this one. Okay, so on to some more baking. We are making some cranberry shortbread cookies, which are so good. I cannot with this recipe. It's just so good, and it's so simple. It's just flour, sugar, vanilla, butter, eggs, and then you can add whatever you want in it. So I just did cranberries, just kept it simple since it's the holiday season. And these were gone in less than 2 days, and I was like, I should have made more of the dough because it was just that good. But it's simple, so I can do that anytime really. I still have a whole bunch of dried cranberries, but the kids have been eating those as a snack. Also, if you guys are wondering what we do for snacks and lunches and breakfast, I have a ton of what we eat in a day videos, I believe, on my channel. So go check those out if you want to see more on a day-to-day basis what we eat. But this is more like dinner meal baking style. So let me know if you guys like this style of video, just combining a whole bunch of meals that we've made over the last month or so, and it's just been really good. I just wanted to share some of my favorite recipes with you all. But if you want to see more day-to-day on what we eat for all those other meals, we're very simple for breakfast and lunch. So we're mainly with the dinners that take a little bit of a longer time to prep and care for, because I just do not have time to make long lunches. It's either leftovers or something simple like some sourdough bread, vegetables, and cheese or something. Like, we're very simple. And then for breakfast, we're very simple too. It's like sourdough pancakes, waffles, you know, your breakfast foods, Z-bars, fruit, granola, yogurt, that kind of thing. So we're very simple when it comes to eating in all the other avenues. But yeah, so I'm just cutting out my little shortbreads and bake them. You only want to bake them for about 8 minutes because you can burn these really quick, but they're just so good. Like, my husband's been requesting me to make them again because we only made them once, and I definitely think we will. It does not have to just be a holiday food, but the holiday season is still here, so I think I'm going to make these at least one more time before it ends because they were just so delightful to have, and I cannot wait to make them at least one more time. And you can make them whatever shape you want. I decided to do a little Christmas trees because I thought, why not be festive and just do the little Christmas trees? Why not? after I made the shortbread cookies, I went ahead and made some chocolate chip cookies because my husband was asking for those too. Then I prepped some more gingerbread dough and sugar cookie dough so we can have them just for whenever. And really that's it. That's all we've been eating in the last month and a half. I felt like that was a lot of recipes, but you guys, they're honestly so good. Otherwise I would not share them. And we enjoy these all the time. When it comes to winter and fall time, these are the recipes that we really have been going to. And they're all so good, and I make them very often. So we just keep them on repeat around here, and it's really good. I hope this video really inspired you guys to cook from scratch as much as possible, or every now and then whenever you have the time. I know it's very time consuming, but it's all about meal prep and batch meals and just making your time and your efforts really worth it by cooking in bigger meals or bigger portions. So another little piece of encouragement I really wanted to leave you all with, because I know a lot of you watching are mamas, and I wanted to just encourage you to bring your littles in the kitchen with you. Just bring your children, let them go along with you while you're cooking. Obviously nothing dangerous, but just let them help you meal prep and put things in the bowl and peel your garlic or your onions, whatever. My kids love to be involved, and honestly it helps keep them busy. And it's a really good skill for them to learn and a really good bonding experience for them. Very core memory is what I like to think of it. And I remember being in the kitchen with my mom and dad and my grandparents, and I absolutely loved it. So I really want to encourage, if you can, to have them in the kitchen with you as often as possible. It could be a little more messy. It could take a little bit more time, but honestly, it's so worth it. And that's something that we truly enjoy doing together. So I always have my kids in the kitchen with me very often, and it's a good time. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that bit of encouragement. It's so much better to cook from scratch and make things yourself. You are avoiding a whole bunch of things that you don't know what's really in your food: preservatives, chemicals, dyes, like all the things. Like, you're just avoiding a lot of bad things and processed things. So it's so much better if you can do it yourself. I know it takes time, but I think it's definitely worth it in the end. So yeah, let me know if you guys like this style of video, and thank you guys always for your support. I really appreciate you. Make sure you check out those other what we eat in a day videos if you want to know more about what we eat every day, because that changes pretty often, and I've made a good few of those videos. So if you like this video, you might like that one too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.